welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this video is going to be a review video. It's going to be of Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Now if you follow me on Goodreads or anything like that, you would have seen that I actually gave this book 5 stars. I actually really love this book, and that's actually really surprising to me because not only do I not particularly like contemporary fiction, but I hate contemporary fiction that takes place in the South. I don't know what it is, but I just don't like it. It never meshes well together with me. It never interests me. I don't like the setting or anything like that, but this book actually really surprised me, and actually found myself liking the location and setting and premise and all that, despite it taking place in the South, in a swamp mainly. Now this video is going to essentially be 2 parts. One part is going to be a non-spoiler review, and then the second part is going to be a spoiler review, and I'll let you know when that comes up. So if you still want to read it and find out what happens, you can. So yeah. So basically the premise of this book is that a young girl named Kaya is slowly left by herself. One by one, each member of her family slowly leaves, and this is due to her father being abusive towards everyone, and they don't want anything to do with it. They don't take her with her, and they actually leave her with the father, and then he eventually leaves too, so she's left. And over time, she actually develops a reputation and a name of the Marsh Girl, because she almost acts like a wild animal. She doesn't really talk to anyone. If anyone tries to talk to her, she runs away. She doesn't go into town often. She lives in a shack all by herself, so people in the town already kind of don't like her. So when she's blamed for murdering one of the I guess you could call them popular boys in the town, everyone thinks that it's her, and everyone essentially turns against her except for a select few people. Now the boy who was murdered, his name is Chase Andrews, and at one point him and Kaya actually had a romantic relationship, and that's not a spoiler. I believe it happens halfway through the book. But yeah, everyone blames her for doing this, and she has to prove her innocence. So we're going to start out with the things that I liked in this book, and this part is the non-spoiler review, just to clarify. The characters in this book I actually really liked, especially some of the guy characters. I love Jumpin'. He's essentially this old sweet shop owner that really helps Kaya through her tough times, and is all around just a sweet, lovable guy. Her first romantic interest, Tate, I actually really liked him, and I really liked their relationship together. I found it to be sweet, especially since they had kind of known each other from childhood, and when they eventually break up again, this is not a spoiler because it does happen like halfway around into the book, I found myself kind of upset at the fact that they did break up because they were just so cute together. He was a sweet guy. He really cared for her. Kaya she starts out as this young girl who's trying to figure out how to live by herself. She really becomes one with nature throughout this book. The author, I believe, is a zoologist, and you could really see how animals influenced some of her writing. Some of the more detailed writing came in when Kaya was watching insects and other stuff like that. And I actually found that part of the book kind of interesting, because she didn't have any really human characters to base anything off of. So her watching insects was essentially like picking up on certain traits that they had, and you can tell that Kaya just all around just loves nature, loves the swamp. The plot of the book I really liked. This is a murder mystery, and while I do love murder mysteries, again, I don't really like contemporary fiction, and I do understand that murder mysteries can be classified as contemporary fiction, but the ones that I usually read are classified under thrillers and that kind of stuff. So usually the murder mysteries that I read are not really as tame as this one, so I thought I was going to like the murder aspect of this book, but I didn't know, and I was pleasantly surprised. Another thing in this book that I actually surprisingly found myself liking was the jumping around. Usually each chapter is a different year, so one chapter might be set in 1954, and then you jump to 1969 when the murder occurred, and so through this you have to kind of piece the puzzles together and find out what really happened, and it creates a really interesting story. Usually I don't like it when a book jumps around from chapter to chapter. I just want that one continuous line, but here I didn't mind it. I thought it was really well done and I really liked it. Some of the things that I didn't particularly like in this book was some of the dialogue. I kind of shoved aside my gripes, I guess, with the southern dialect in here. That's not what really bugged me. What kind of bugged me was that sometimes the dialogue didn't feel natural, like how people would actually say, or there wasn't like a pause where I felt there would be a pause. They would jump from kind of one emotion to another and there was really no break, and I just found that kind of not really, I guess believable would be the word, and that how humans react to certain things. The main place where I found the dialogue to be the most kind of, I guess, incorrect would be with the detectives who are investigating the case. The majority of their lines didn't really work for me. It didn't really sound natural. I couldn't really pinpoint a thing why. I think it was some of their lines were huge exposition dumps that didn't really feel real to me in that kind of sense. There were a few other emotional beats with Kaya and a few other people that didn't really hit home for me. It didn't destroy the book, it just kind of took me out of the scene. Another small little thing that I didn't particularly like were the time cuts, and I'm not talking about the different chapters, how they take place in different years. I'm talking about the time cuts that happen within a chapter. This mainly happens towards the end in the courtroom trial. There isn't really a bridge or anything to tell you that she's thinking about a specific event. Like she'll say, or she'll think that she's remembering something, and then all of a sudden, and then the next paragraph, sometimes even the next sentence, it's this huge like background memory type deal, and sometimes it really confused me because I'm like, wait, aren't we still in the courtroom when this happened? When did we go back? And I would kind of have to skim back through and go, okay, so this is a flashback, but there was really no foresight into that it was a flashback until you were a good decent way through the flashback to realize that it was one. Now, throughout the entire book, Kaya is always remembering like this one author's poetry, always thinking about it and everything. I didn't really understand it at first. I kind of felt it was unnecessary at times, and I'm the type of person that hates poetry, so this really bugged me. So I usually just didn't read the poetry. I would kind of skim over it or just skip it completely. Again, these things that I didn't like, it didn't destroy the book for me. It just kind of bugged me a few times, but nonetheless, I still love it. So now we're going to be moving on to the spoiler part of this video. So the main thing that I'm going to be talking about here is the ending. This ending, and I've read comments on Goodreads and reviews and stuff like that. This ending has divided people to whether or not they hate the book or love the book. Like, I couldn't find really an in-between. So the ending is that Kaya actually was the one who murdered Chase. I actually really like this ending because throughout the entire book, she was this sweet, innocent, little girl that like wouldn't even hurt a fly. And then to find out that she actually was able to pull off this murder and get away with it was really like shocking and breathtaking. Like, I love the ending. I can understand though, for those of you who don't like the ending, that's completely understandable. In the court case, it is made extremely clear that it would have been next to impossible for her to pull this off. Almost inhumanly possible, but she still manages to do it. So I do understand when people say, oh, the author kind of dug herself into the ditch and just decided to like kind of jump out, I guess. So I do understand that. I could find a small problem because I still don't know how she managed to pull this off, because it was made so clearly that she couldn't. But nonetheless, I still love the ending. But if you don't, that's completely understandable. One of the teeny tiny little things that I didn't really like in terms of the ending of this book is after the court case, after she's released, it does this huge like time jump. I think she's like 60 or something. Her and Tate are married and all that. And then all of a sudden you just get like this huge exposition dump of, oh yeah, this character died, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, whoa, let's just kind of slow down here just a little bit. It was kind of a lot of info dumping. Kaya does actually end up dying in this book. I believe it was by a heart attack. Tate finds her in her boat in the swamp. After her death, he continues to live in her shack. He actually finds a little hidden space beneath the floorboard where the firewood usually set, and he finds like all this poetry written by this author that Kaya had loved. It was actually all the poetry that she was remembering all the time throughout this book, and we actually find out that Kaya was the author of all that poetry. And then through one poem, which is about two insects who mate and then the female kills the male, Tate actually finds out that Kaya was the one who did murder Chase. Now, I thought that was kind of cool how the author tied up this poetry, kind of like a final twist. I just think it's a little bit like disappointing, I guess you could say, that we had to go through bucket loads of poetry to get to this final thing, but I do understand why she did it. I personally don't know how else the author would have done this to make this work. So this is more of like just a personal problem of I hate poetry type of deal here. But I did love that twist and finding out that she was the author of that poetry and that she wasn't as sweet and innocent as everyone thought that she was. So yeah, all in all, I really like this book. I highly recommend it. I love almost like everything about this book, which again is rare because this is a contemporary Southern fiction book that usually I like despise, like would not even pick up. But this one I actually really love. So yeah, that was my review of Where the Crawdads Sing. If you like it, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all my socials. They'll be listed down below. See you in the next video. Bye!